Brad Holmes blessed us yesterday with a ton of talking points and a ton of nuggets, one of which, unfortunately, for me, I don't like the conversation, but here we are, about the running backs. And, he doesn't devalue the position the way most would. I'm going to paraphrase here, but essentially, nobody was upset when Todd Gurley went 10th overall. And I would agree with that, right? Todd Gurley, one of the best running backs in the NFL for 4, 5, 6 years. And then he went away forever. Haven't heard of him since. He retired, by the way, at 26 years old, 27? But anyways, beyond the point, Brad used Todd Gurley to defend the idea that the Lions would or could take Bijan Robinson. And, of course, case by case, as he would say, open to everything, very, very shrewd in what he would give you. But, Jeff, this is your guy. I know you love Bijan Robinson. Yeah. We'll get to a would you rather a little later on what you would do, what you would want. But talk me through this Bijan Robinson situation, because I don't like it. I don't love the idea of it. It's not just about positional value to me. This is just asinine for any legitimate organization to pull off in the current state of the NFL in the first round, even if they are supremely talented and they're as talented as Christian McCaffrey or Saquon. That's great. It's a position that has one of the highest injury rates in the NFL and has one of the shortest lifespans in the NFL for a reason. It is a car accident every single play. I don't like the pick. I love the player. I don't love the pick at 6 or 18, but Jeff, no. I know you do. So walk me through it.
Not at 6. I'll say that. But the reason why I wanted to have this conversation is we discussed Bijan a lot, the idea of the Lions drafting a running back, and you guys know how I feel about it. If I'm going to take a running back, especially if he's there at 18, which, quite frankly, I don't think he will be, to me, Philly's the best landing spot for Bijan. And the betting odds would agree with that. You check Vegas out, Bijan's projected to go somewhere in the top 15. He's not going to make it past there. So I don't think he'll be there at 18. But if he is, I'm all for taking a guy like Bijan. And I've already kind of listed those reasons, too. Looking at, number one, the running back class as a whole, I believe there's Bijan and there's Jahmyr Gibbs slightly under him. I wouldn't even say right under him, but there's a little bit of a drop-off just because of right now. Jahmyr can be a better pro, but as a prospect, Bijan is levels above Jahmyr Gibbs. And then there's the rest of the field, the rest of the running back class. So for me, if you're going to take a running back and you're going to take one in the first round, it's Bijan Robinson. And the reason why I say that, for a couple of reasons. Number one, if he's there at 18, the pick at 18, he's much more valuable. You could argue, and we had this discussion, 2 days ago or yesterday, about if you take the quarterbacks out, Bijan may be the highest rated offensive player in the entire draft. So if you can get him at 18, you're already getting significant value, but you also get that fifth-year option on top of it as well. So the point Brad was making about Todd Gurley is, yeah, we took him 9th overall. In the years we got out of Todd, he's talking about from 2015 to 2018, that 3-year span where the Rams were in the playoffs, they made the Super Bowl, they were winning playoff games. Nobody complained about Todd Gurley being drafted 9th overall. It was only brought up after he retired early. And yes, that could happen. Running backs, you could have a very, very short career. The average NFL career is 2.5 years. So think about that. That's just the NFL career. And now we're talking about running backs, which could be significantly less. But there's Bijan Robinson, and he's an exception. And there's certain exceptions that come along year to year. And if you're talking about a guy that's the best prospect since, Saquon Barkley, I think it's worth considering. So for me, if he's there at 18, I'm going to have to think about it. And he's going to have to be a realistic option. But to be honest with you, Adam, I don't think he will be. I think he'll be taken by Philly before then. He's too good.
Let's look at the last 5 running backs taken in the top 10, okay? Saquon Barkley, Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott, and, of course, how can we forget Todd Gurley? Those are the last 5 running backs taken in the top 10.
Right.
Over the last, 6 years probably, 7 years. And the point, and the question I have for you is, we did this last year. All of you, and not you specifically, Jeff, but everybody in the chat, Lions community, we were having conversations, even on our own network. The idea of taking a Kyle Hamilton at number 2 overall. Remember that whole conversation?
Yeah, I do.
And I would ask you, hey, Jeff, would you prefer Jesse Bates or Trey Hendrickson? Would you prefer this safety or this edge?
And it was
rusher,
always
right?
the edge,
right?
typically.
Okay, cool.
At 2.
So I'm going to play that game again with you right now.
Okay.
Would you prefer John Hargraves, a young John Hargraves, or a young, let's say, Ezekiel Elliott or Todd Gurley. And in this scenario, Bijan Robinson.
And this would be at 18, right? Or you're talking about at 6.
No, at 6 or 18. It doesn't matter.
Well,
the idea that the Lions get the guy, I don't care what pick. The pick doesn't matter to me. I'm against first-round running backs. That's just my philosophy. That's why I'm asking you.
But if you're asking me to compare Hargraves to Bijan, I'm going to go with the higher positional value always. But the point is, you're picking that at 6. It'd be like taking Hargraves, a player like that, at 6, and then you could take Bijan at 18. We're not directly comparing them. Right, and that's kind of why it's easier to pills to swallow.
But do
at
you
18.
think he'll be there at 18?
No, I don't.
So
there you go.
So we can't even have that conversation. Well, it would have to be at 6.
I'm not taking him at 6.
To Bijan Robinson's credit, he's the best back to come out since who? Christian McCaffrey in 2017? Maybe Saquon 18. You can go back to 18. That's the most recent example of a stud running back coming out projected that high. Okay. You taking him at 6? No, you're not. Nobody wants to. And yeah, it's easy to say this pick worked out if he goes for 1,300 yards and 400 yards receiving. But that doesn't translate to anything in the NFL. You want to talk about disappointing careers? Saquon Barkley's career. Disappointing. What has he accomplished?
Well,
a playoff win this past year, and they didn't even pay him. They paid the shitty quarterback they have in New York. Think about that. You want to talk about positional value. Leonard Fournette, a running back on a Super Bowl winning team, a good running back, but he was never worthy of a top 5 pick. Christian McCaffrey at 8 overall, yes, an all-pro talent at that position. What does it mean?
But
up until he got to the Niners,
right,
which is a team full of all-pros, so that's not even an example because it's the outlier. Todd Gurley went on, integral part of them getting to a Super Bowl. 1 year and done. Knees degenerated. Everything is gone. Ezekiel Elliott gave you 3 years, 2 years coming out. He was unbelievable, leading the league in rushing. And then it bit you in the ass once it comes time to pay him.
Here's the problem too. Is with McCaffrey you brought up. Yes, even in Carolina he was banged up for a stretch of seasons there. Majority early on he was healthy. But when he got to the 49ers, the reason why Bijan, it's hard to just call him a running back. You would have to call him almost just an offensive weapon entirely. Like Christian McCaffrey to me isn't a running back. He's an offensive weapon. So when those guys get utilized, like when McCaffrey came to the 49ers this year, even though he was injury riddled, like his career at that point.
And it made sense for their team.
But still, look at the impact he made for the 49ers, like as an offensive weapon. Like
well,
what
we have
you
the
could
best
do.
Offensive line in football.
Yes.
You have the best offensive coordinator.
And Bijan would be on a rookie deal,
coach.
not Christian's contract, in which he was just paid.
And that's fair. And the one thing I will give you is the contract. But if you draft Bijan, you are going into that situation with the understanding of he's going to be here 5 years and that's it.
Well, but you don't know if he's the whole injury thing. You don't.
No.
Predict
I'm not talking
injuries.
about injuries.
Like if he's relatively
I'm
healthy,
not paying him a second contract. Would you want to pay a running back north of $15-16 million a year? No, you wouldn't. So when
especially if he lines up with your quarterback.
NFL.
Yeah,
it's not to discredit the players. They're all productive as hell. I get paying Derrick Henry. I get paying some of these guys, but I wouldn't do it. It doesn't work, man. You need that money in way other different places. You don't believe me? Go to Kansas City. Go to Tampa Bay. Go to all the teams that have signed free agents or drafted their running backs that are competing at the top level right now without paying their running backs. When you pay your quarterback, and let's be honest, Jared Goff, you got him on a friendly deal right now. If you dare to extend him, you can't pay a running back that type of money because you want to pay Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're going to want to pay Penei Sewell. You're going to want to sign free agents. You're going to want to bolster your defense and get it to be an even better defense in the following years. Not spend $15-16 million a year. And yeah, you could make the point, well, Bijan's only cost you a few million for the first 4 years, and then you extend him on the 5th-year option, then it'll cost you money, but it's only for that 1 year. You could make that argument. And I think that's a fair argument to make.
Because, again, even if you draft another player at 18 and he becomes a really, really good player, you got to pay him anyway. So, but to your point, yeah, paying a running back's not ideal. But if you can get 5 years of Bijan and he's ultra productive, to me, it's worth it at 18. Like, if I could trade 18 for a 5-year stretch.
At 18, I would be more open to it. I still wouldn't do it.
Right.
But I would be way more open to it than at 6. But 6 is the reality.
I'm not going to sit here and make an argument for 6.
you agree with me, he's not going to be there at 18. There's no way. And he's too talented. It's not to knock the player.
He's too talented, yeah. I don't think he will be.
Just welcome to today's NFL. The NFL overvalues, right or wrong, whatever you think, they overvalue the quarterback position more than they ever have. The rules, protecting the quarterbacks, it has never been a more quarterback-driven league.
Mm-hmm.
You go back to the year 2000, this was not a quarterback-driven league. This was a defense running back-driven league. And that's what it had been for the most part. And yeah, you had your exceptional wide receivers that would come out. You had a few quarterbacks that would really throw the ball really well. But it was always about the head coach, defense, and could you run the ball? That's not the case anymore. Now you need to just run the ball situationally well. But you don't need a Dalvin Cook. You don't need a Saquon Barkley. You don't need a Christian McCaffrey at that figure. And to me, it's a luxury to even consider Bijan Robinson at 6. The one team that I think can take a chance, Philly at 10, sure. I agree with you there. But at 6 for the Lions, I don't care what Brad Holmes says. That's wrong.
Even Philly, like as much as I agree, he's the 10th. He'd be the 10th pick in this scenario going to Philly. If you think about it, even for Philly, why would Philly draft him 10th overall? If they can't afford him, by the time they're paying already Devonta Smith, they got Jalen Hurts already paid for. So that problem's going to be for anybody that drafts Bijan is you're going to have to eventually have to pay him. But to me at least, 5 years of a productive, hopefully healthy, you really can't predict these things to any player in the NFL, then it's worth it. But who knows? Yeah, he's not going to be there, but it's worth the convo. To me, he goes 10 to the Eagles, and if he's not going 10 to the Eagles, he has a real chance, I think, to go 18.
If the Lions take him, and you know what? I grew up watching Barry, LaDainian Tomlinson, Jamal Lewis, Priest Holmes, Clinton Portis, some of the best backs in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
These guys played 8, 9, 10, 11 years, and the NFL's different now, but it somehow worked. It just worked, but even then they struggled outside of Barry, who gave you 10 elite years. One of the very few backs to ever do that. But you find yourself in a position sometimes when you have that guy at running back where you're just paying him because he gave you so much. Dallas with Zeke. Extended him early, regretted it. Dalvin Cook with the Vikings. Like, that production holds marginal value in my opinion. I don't need a running back to run 1,500 yards. I need a dynamic backfield, a duo, a trio to run for 11, 12, 13, but more so just situationally run really well. That works for me more than paying one of these guys all this money to run an extra 100, 200 yards, break down their bodies, and then their wear and tear is over by the end of the year and they're not as effective in the playoffs. And to me, it's irrelevant. But we'll take a break.